All right, hey everyone. Mark here, Mark B Markets. Thanks for joining me for another Greenbridge Investing Market Analysis. All right, so we got quite a few things to go over here today. Thank you all for joining me. If you're new to my stream and you have a market like an altcoin or a stock that you would like to see, please share the symbol in the chat now. And if it's an altcoin, just put USD or USDT after it so that I get the symbol correct. And once I complete my portion of the analysis, I can answer your questions, okay? Also, if you'd like to share what part of the world you're in, whatever country or city, that's always just a fun thing that I like to do over with TradingView, but I'm not simulcasting today. All right, so all that said, let's get started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Let's get into Bitcoin first. Again, I appreciate everyone's questions here. I'm going to cover Bitcoin. Of course, I'm going to go over the stock market, gold, dollar, bonds, all those things real quick because you should not lose sight of them. Now, first things first, let's talk about this Bitcoin situation. All right, now, a trade idea was sent out a couple of days ago, right, on this breakout here. It was labeled as aggressive, as Dan is mentioning here in the chat. It was like sent out basically over here in this area. And this is my point. Now, I personally do not take trades like that. That is not my style. I don't buy highs. It's a very simple rule that I follow. Now, I don't care how optimistic the world is. I don't care that $1 bazillion is going to come out of institutions and Bitcoin's going to be at 100,000 by next week. I don't care. Okay, I can't tell you how many videos, titles that I have seen, Bitcoin going to 100,000, blah, 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 blah. I know the people here know better now, but it's unbelievable how desperate people are because these videos are not getting like just a couple of views. They're getting hundreds of thousands of views, all right, which just shows, okay? Now, my point is this. My simple rule keeps me out of this mess right here. All right, my simple rule, don't buy highs. All right, and I've been sticking to that rule since we broke 50K, since we broke 55, since we broke 60, because if I'm not willing to take risk at 50K, I'm even less willing to take risk above 60K. Now, let me just point something out here. This line, by the way, you see this resistance line on my chart? That line has been on my chart for probably almost a year. As you can see, price has rejected that pretty swiftly, right? That was actually a projection back before when Bitcoin was on its way higher, when it was going to that 64K area. I had this as a resistance projection, and because there were no historical levels to go by, and interesting went right to it. Okay, so whatever. I can't trade on that because I also had a line here, right, and it blew through that without much of a problem. My point is this: when you know that you're in a general resistance area, which is what this box here represents, because this is basically the 64K resistance area, right? This whole area right here. When you know you're generally in a resistance area, why bother taking a chance? That's my point, because now, if you bought at 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, and now you got this big red candle in your face, okay? So in this situation, now you have to monitor it. Now you have to babysit it. Now the next candle may open and take out the low of this candle and create a sell signal off of a resistance, right? And stop you out. Is it worth all the stress and all the, no, it's not, okay? This is exactly what I like to avoid. So that's why when things are all excited and blah, 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 I have no interest. Now, when this thing's starting to pull back, right, there were some questions. Should, would it be a good idea to maybe put a buy order and step in front of this? No, it wouldn't be a good idea, in my opinion, because look where you are. You're still in a resistance area. Now, the title of this video, I said fake out means pullback. What do I mean by fake out or false breakout? Well, let's go back, right, to the 64K. This is 64K over here on the chart, right? So what do I mean by false breakout? This is the actual peak, 64K. You see that? Price went slightly above it and reversed pretty sharply, in a very short period of time, right? Just a few hours. So that's a false breakout, all right? When something makes a new high relative to an old high, there's usually like a region above that previous high where a fake out is very likely. And we're in that region. So that's especially a place where I'm really not interested in anything long. Now, as far as longs go, I want to see a support. And that's what my rules force me to do. I want to see a support. If it can't give me a support, I have no interest in it, right? And it hasn't given me a significant support ever since 40K, right? This thing has just been straight up. Now, support is right here in this area, which is what? Low 50s? What is that? No, I'm sorry. That's the 60K area. What is this high over here? 62-ish. Right now, you have a support somewhere in here, okay? That would be one, but that's a minor support because you don't really have much time spent here, okay? You see just these little gyrations on the price action? That's not really a major support. I want to see something more dramatic. That would be, right, what I want to see is more like over here. That's the lower 50s, okay? What is that? What is this high over here? 52,000. So that area right there would make a lot more sense in terms of support in staying with the broader trend intact. Now keep something in mind. If Bitcoin pulls back that far, which is hard to believe that it can do, but it can do it, right? That's the support. If it pulls back, you have to understand something. All the hype and all the nonsense around you is going to be bearish. They're going to be saying, oh, Bitcoin's going back to 20K, blah, 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 get out of your Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. That's what they will be saying here. They're not going to be saying this is a buying opportunity. They weren't saying that this was a buying opportunity. They were not saying that. Everyone was bearish, 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 bearish. Where are all these guys, by the way, who come out with these videos? Oh, Bitcoin going to 100K. Where are they when Bitcoin is here, right? You get these people just getting started, right, at 60K. Thanks a lot, Captain Obvious. Just getting started at 60K. There was a title on TradingView. I guess someone wrote some article, 3 billion and just getting started. I guess they were referring to the ETF, but that's what I mean. Just getting started. Bitcoin started at 40K. The move started at 40K. So, not just getting started. Whenever you hear that, you really should run. The point is this, you need to think like a contrarian if you want to be prepared for these moves. And thinking like a contrarian is not easy to do, especially if you are consumed by what's going on at the moment. At the moment is old news, especially if you're getting that news for free. If it's on YouTube, on Twitter, or wherever, some public forum, the only way I would give any type of current news, any type of weight, is if an insider told me. Right? So if an insider, maybe a head developer of blah, 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 or someone on the inside says to me, no one knows this information, I'm just telling you, oh, now I have an advantage. That's real information. But if it's on some public forum because some fake guru is showing some video and this is the time to buy it, blah, 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 it's nonsense. So please stop getting consumed by that. So that's my Bitcoin situation here. And you know what? I want to say something about SHIB. Right, SHIB, because I have a funny story about that, but I'm not going to talk about that here. I'll cover SHIB after I do all this, because if I talk about that, I'll be here for an hour. All right, so this is Bitcoin. Wouldn't touch it right now. Let it pull back. You have the major support around 51K, minor support around 61K. Now, it's possible that Bitcoin gives us a reversal in this area. It's possible, and it's within reason. It's a little aggressive, but it's still within reason. So I would wait for something like that, for the more aggressive trade, if the market can provide that type of opportunity. It's still possible. People misconstrue and think that, I'm bearish. I'm not bearish. I just don't buy highs. So I just want to see a support on a broader bullish trend, and I'll be happy to consider a long. Just not here. All right, so that's Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the stock market real quick, because there's some nonsense going on here too. Now, of course, we have companies coming out with reports and this and that, whatever. So that's going to have an effect here. Now, here's the thing. The stock market, this is a NASDAQ, had this push, this recent push, no pullbacks. It's just vertical, right? And now we have this outside bar today. You see that? So again, sucking everyone in. Now, I don't know what kind of hype they're pushing in the news, but this right here, it's actually a buy signal. Now, here's an important lesson. Are all buy signals created equal? No, they're not. Look at the location of the buy signal. That's not a support. This is not a support either. So that's an aggressive buy signal, right? And your stop would have to be measured at the low of the candle. Your chances of getting stopped out are very high. Okay, and just like that Bitcoin situation, you're buying right into an area where it's more attractive to sell. Now, I know that, if there's some more positive news, the market can keep going. Yeah, sure, I understand that. But I'm not willing to take that risk. Because as you can see, no matter how great things look, you don't know what's coming next, right? And I don't ever make judgments on old information. Like this basically is old information. I can't say, oh, this thing looks like it's going to just keep going. I'm just going to buy it. Because I know the probability here is much lower that it continues. So for me, I'm interested in doing anything with something like this. I would like to see a pullback of some kind. There's plenty of room here, plenty of room, this whole region, plenty of room for a nice, normal pullback. Okay, that can give me a better reward risk and better potential. Plenty of room there, and it's possible we can see that over the next few weeks. It's possible. I don't believe we can continue in straight lines. That's not really sustainable. And speaking of straight lines, hold on, let me just show you something real quick. All right, because I referred to this on the description of this video. This is Bitcoin on a weekly chart. You see that? That's not sustainable, right? That type of move right there, it's like ridiculous mode. So anyone that's buying in this range up in here, you're going to have some obstacles ahead of you, right? Because I don't think this is going to continue vertical. While anything is possible, I think the probability is low. And look at this weekly pin bar developing. We still have, today and tomorrow, but still not what I'd like to see off of weekly candle. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. Let's jump over to gold real quick. And again, thanks for asking your questions. I'm going to get to your questions once I complete my portion of the analysis. So this is gold. Let's go to a daily chart, because gold is tricky, right? But here's the main lesson with gold. As you can see, gold going back over a year, as you can see, gold has made no progress. So this is another lesson on people that are putting out news and, but they're a big gold company and they have analysts that have been in gold for 50 years and blah, 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 blah. Gold has gone nowhere for over a year and a half. So what does that mean? That means you can't really judge it in a trend following way. It's a consolidation. It's a higher low consolidation, right? This entire consolidation, as you can see here, is just one big higher low, which sure, that's a bullish argument. But as far as trying to trade gold on the smaller time frames, well, I wouldn't even bother doing that. As far as swing trade gold, the only thing to do in this type of situation is wait for an attractive level. And that would be this area right here, right? What, 1750? That's it. So you wait for it because it can get there. Maybe it goes halfway. Maybe it goes between 1750 and what's this over here? 1760. This area right here. But I want to see something near the range low. I don't like buying into this range high resistance area. As you can see, it's had a lot of trouble here, right? Also, gold comes with a lot of opinions. You can't go by that stuff. So if you want an easier time with gold, you're better off working with a gold miner, all right? Because they have different variables that move them, stocks like Newmont Mining, which it's going to be affected by gold, but they have other factors. Wheat and precious metals, we talked about these all the time. Look, they're not even pulling back, right? They're barely pulling back here. So just a couple of things to keep in mind, but don't get all consumed with that gold stuff. Now, let's talk about the dollar, because this is the problem, right? As long as the dollar, we talked about the dollar pulling back. I talked about the dollar pulling back and not changing its structure. You see this? Right away, dollar's bearish. No, the dollar's not bearish. Oh, but there's a double top in the dollar. Look, double top, bearish. No, this does not guarantee a trend change, all right? It's just a resistance area and we get a pullback. A pullback is not a trend change. This trend, you can clearly see, higher lows, higher highs. Not only that, look at today's candle. That looks like it wants to continue that bullish trend. If this candle closes like this and we take out the high of the candle, that would confirm a new higher low, as Seinfeld would say, right? So off of an old resistance, new support. That's bullish. So if the dollar is going to continue and form another leg higher, again, the dollar is relatively slow when it moves, but if it continues this leg and pushes to a new high, that's not good for gold, All right, or what about copper? What about copper? Here, let's take a look at copper here for a minute, right? Hold on, what's going on here? HG1. Okay, look, copper. Oh, what happened to copper? I thought it was going to go to the moon. No, it's not going to the moon, right? Resistance area. Here's the thing about copper. I'm bringing this up because this is really a dollar play. Again, all the hype, oh, construction, oh, copper is going to go through the roof. No, it's not going through the roof now. It's going the opposite way. All right, let's take a look at oil real quick. USD, WTI. You need to keep an eye on these markets. Now, this is a strong market, okay? And it's starting to have a little trouble now, but it's not selling off yet. So something like oil, it's just doing what it wants to do. It has different variables that affect it, especially in the political realm. But for something like this, you just wait for a support. There has been no real test of support. It just keeps going, almost in a vertical line. Okay, but at some point it will find a high, and a good level for oil is something like this over here. All right, which is an old resistance, 76 area, 75, 76, something like that. That would be a good place to be considering oil and oil stocks. Just like my rules say, I don't buy highs. So when something looks like this, I'm not buying it here because, by the time I buy it, especially now, the chances of pullback are greater. The higher it goes, the chances of a pullback are greater. Because I could have said that all along. I'm not going to buy it here. I'm not going to buy it over here. On this high, I'm not going to buy it, blah, blah, blah. And it keeps going higher and higher. But at least here, you have some supports nearby, right? And at least over here, you're coming off of a higher low, right? The argument for buying is much better here. Of course, we could say that after the fact. But the further it goes, the argument becomes weaker and weaker as far as buying it. So anyway, just wanted to point a few of those markets out because, again, this is a game that we're playing with the dollar. Let's take a look at ZN1. This is the 10-year note. Look at the 10-year note. These are the bonds, okay? Look at this. We broke lower today, right? Stock market was going higher, but the stock market is, they don't react one-to-one. Look at this support break on the bonds. That implies rising rates, interest rates. Maybe they're factoring in that the Fed is maybe going to say something hawkish during their next meeting. I don't know. But this will contribute to dollar strength and keep that dollar in a bullish trend. This will catch up to the stock market. So that's why, while we may get into rally mode, we may get into the holiday rally, you don't want to go into it with the idea that, oh, the stock market's safe. It's a sure thing. No, not with the bond market looking like this, okay? Because the rising rates will start to eat into everything, and you will see companies start reporting, their reports are going to be coming out less than expected and blah, 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 because their profit margins are going to shrink because it's going to cost them more to borrow money. This is especially important for companies that borrow a lot of money to do business. Okay, anyway. All right, so just a few things I wanted to point out. How am I doing with time? Because I know I talk too much. I want to try to keep this. All right, not too bad. I want to get to your questions now. All right, let me just say hi to a few people. We got Dan. Hey, good to see you. Elizabeth. Okay, we'll get into that. And Curb. I didn't know Curb Your Enthusiasm was coming out. I didn't know Larry was making another season. I got to try to see that. Thanks for mentioning that because, I love Larry David. We had another guy in our chat, in our active investor chat, also mention that he's a big Larry David fan, Sean. So that's cool. I didn't realize we had so many Larry David fans and Seinfeld fans. But yeah, my Larry David impression, I didn't get much good feedback on that. So no more Larry David impressions. All right, so Avi, good to see you. All right, Ying, hey, Oleg, Travel, good to see you all. Savi from Brooklyn. All right, cool. All right, so let's get into. Before I get to your questions, I want to show you SHIB, right? SHIB. Stop the bullshit. So now look at this, right? This is SHIB. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. People have asked me about this in this stream, not today, but on previous days. Now look at this, right? If you go on YouTube and you look at the videos that are coming out on this thing, they're saying basically, if you invest $1,000 into this, you can be a millionaire, right? And they're saying things like that. Now, I understand they're going to say these things for you to click on them so that they can hope to convert you to one of their whatever, affiliate links or whatever it is. Subscribe to their channel, blah, 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 because it helps their videos get more promoted, right? So sure, they're going to say wild things. But here's the problem. They're conveying that this is almost a sure thing. They're saying like, just throw $100 into it, and that $100 can turn into 10 or 15,000. And if it doesn't go, hey, you only lose $100. Okay, right, but you know that $100 could probably be better spent on something else, because the chances of this doing something like that, if you look at the coins in circulation and all the other nonsense about this thing, this sounds to me like someone bought a lot of it, okay, in this area right here. Someone really bought a ton of it, and now they're just trying to unload, as they usually do, on the retail traders. And you have all these YouTubers coming out and say, I'm buying this, I'm buying everything I got, I'm putting into this, and blah, 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 and it's going to go 25,000%, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so far, it's done nothing, right? I mean, look at this. After this move, it's just gyrating. What else is new? There's no such thing as a sure thing, especially if they're promoting it on YouTube or public forums. All right, if it's out like that and the whole world has access to it, it's no good. All right, let me give you just to contrast that. 12 years ago or whatever, when Bitcoin first came out, guess what? It wasn't on YouTube. It wasn't on Twitter. It was, only like developers, a very small group of people knew about Bitcoin when Bitcoin was less than $1, right? So what makes you think that something like this, this is things just getting started. I can be a millionaire if I throw $1,000 into, please don't get sucked into that. The only way to play these hype coins, because that's what this is, right? It's just a hype coin, is forget the charts, because the charts aren't, technical analysis is not really going to help you in these situations. It's pure hype. So you just throw money in and be prepared to lose the money. That's the best way to think of it, right? You're just throwing money away. So if you can throw money away, you can play. But the thing is, you have to do it with a bunch of them. You can't just pick one, because chances are the one is not going to go anywhere. So you have to have a whole bunch, right? That's the only way to play that game. You're basically gambling, which has nothing to do with technical analysis. So I just wanted to point that out, because the magnitude of the hype, the message that they're conveying is just so ridiculous. I can't believe people still believe this stuff. Now here's another thing that maybe some of you can give me some insight on, because I don't understand this at all. I was watching two live streams, okay? Two live streams at the same time, and Elon Musk was on both live streams at the same time, but he wasn't in the same location. So obviously these were not live, okay? So they must have been some other, they had, some previous session, and they were restreaming it or replaying it. Now, so two live streams showing a few people, right? Elon Musk was one of them. Now, in these streams, they put up some kind of message, right, while you're watching them talk, and it says, deposit this much Bitcoin, and we'll send you this much SHIB back, or we'll send you this much coin back. What is that? And who would send that money to can someone explain that to me? I see these all the time, and they just strike me as like, who would send them money? Maybe someone knows more. And why does YouTube allow these things? Can't they easily scam people out of money? Meanwhile, YouTube is giving people a hard time talking about like climate, blah, 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 whatever, but they let people get scammed? Anyway, all right, just maybe someone could give me some insight on that, because I think it's very unusual that they're putting these links. Oh, send some money to this wallet and we'll send you this money back. I see this all the time, especially during these live streams. All right, so let me get to your questions now. All right, so Elizabeth wants to see Ethereum. So now I know Ethereum was made that new high. Remember, Elizabeth, we talked about this, the Ethereum at 4K. Well, that's Litecoin. Hold on. We talked about this. You had asked me, can it get to 4K and this and that, right? So we talked about that. I think that was back here, and it got there. Now here's the thing. This was the high that was, really stood out to me. And going back even further, I mean, look where you are, right? Just look where you are. Not only that, look what we have now, right? Bearish pin bar after a breakout. You see this? Bearish pin bar. Not good if you just bought this thing. So hopefully you took some money off the table. As far as new longs, no way. Not with something like this. So as far as where to get involved in something like Ethereum, this thing needs to pull back to some supports, just like Bitcoin needs to. And the first support that you really have that I would think has any reliability at all is 3,700, right? It's this low over here. So you want to see Ethereum test that area, right? And once it tests the area, you want to see some type of price action confirmation. You want to see a bullish pin bar. You want to see a failed low. You want to see something that shows that it's not going to just keep going. Common mistake, as you know, I've talked about it many times, is it just blows through the level, right? It gives you a big vertical bar through the level, and people just buying it, stepping in front of it, thinking, oh, it's support, it'll hold. And that works sometimes, but it's not a reliable way to get into these things. More confirmation is usually a better idea. So you don't get the best price, but at least you don't sit there and watch your money get wiped out. So that would be the area I'd be looking for something like Ethereum. Anything below that area, below this support, you're looking at a general supportive area, right? So what, 3,700, probably between 3,700 and 3,000, this whole area is going to be a generally supportive area. Why? Why do I say that? Look at this old resistance, okay? Look at that old resistance. So that congestion area, right? All of this, you have all this back here, all of that, there's probably going to be attractive for buyers or people also that have maybe shorted it because, people do that. They'll be happy to get out of those shorts, and they also they become a source of buying pressure. That's the reason why something like that usually occurs. But the point with Ethereum is bad place to be buying it now. Just like Bitcoin, everyone gets carried away. I saw one video, oh, Ethereum's going to 10,000. Right. And now all these people top ticket, okay? Not going to 10,000 right now. So what is this thing minus? 4,100 isn't bad, but the appearance of the red candle, you have to see what occurs now from here. So see if it pulls back. That's the best you can do, right? The trend is strong. I'm not bearish on this. I just want to see a support. So that's Ethereum. And thanks for mentioning Curb. I have to see if I can watch that. Okay, so X. Too afraid to take Bitcoin trade. Right. Okay, so I mentioned that. I mentioned the same thing with Bitcoin. You just want to wait for that pullback. Stepping in front of it is a very aggressive thing to do. You are stepping in front of something that's generally strong, but the thing is, what you need to understand about these coins is when they pull back, understand something. A lot of times you get these little red candles, right? These little red candles, they don't really go anywhere. They get a lot of people short and they don't go anywhere, and then the thing goes higher. So it's not a real pullback, and we can't judge this right now. We don't know if this is going to be a real pullback or not. If it's going to be a real pullback, that pullback type of price action can be present, as you can see, for a number of weeks, right? That's why, let this thing play out and let it give a clear signal. Otherwise, you're getting caught in this kind of mess back here. And it could be even steeper. You don't know. If some news comes out that no one was expecting, right? I don't know. China calls Bitcoin illegal again for a second time. I'm just exaggerating. But something like that, next thing you know, it's minus another 10,000 points. So just be patient and wait. Okay, wait for that setup. It takes a while, right? This thing takes a while to turn and then produce a new opportunity. It could take 2 or 3 weeks. All right, so thanks for asking. Hey, Avi, ETH and Litecoin. Okay, so I looked at Ethereum. Let's look at Litecoin. So Litecoin's been in a similar situation. Litecoin's typically a Bitcoin follower. So this is, not bad. Not bad performance from Litecoin. Higher lows, higher highs, while Bitcoin's pushing highs. Now, my big concern with most of these altcoins is, yes, like the structure for Litecoin is bullish, but what's up with this situation right here, right? Why isn't Litecoin at new highs while Bitcoin is at new highs? Actually, that's not even an all-time high. That's just, why couldn't it make the higher high? Why couldn't it take out this resistance here with Bitcoin having such an enthusiastic blah, 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 right? Some people think that, oh, now these things have to play catch up, right? Bitcoin made these dramatic new highs, and now the altcoins, all the money's going to flow into the altcoin. No, that's not effective thinking. You can't think with that type of logic. What you have to look at is, if Bitcoin made new all-time highs, which it has done, these coins should be doing the same thing or a similar thing. Okay, they should at least be taking out some kind of significant resistance level or recent resistance level. This has not done that. Most coins that I looked at have not done that, which means they're relatively weak, which means no money is going into them. So when Bitcoin pulls back, the question is what happens to these, right? If most people were not buying, they were selling, because that's what's holding it back, these things are more likely to sell faster, right? That's relative weakness. We see this in the stock market all the time. So, yeah, I don't like it for that reason. I wouldn't go near these things until they're at support levels, first of all. And your support on Litecoin is going to be around here, similar to that, like that Ethereum chart. It looks very similar. And that's around 179, 180. You're not too far from there. At 200, it's only 20 points. It's not really a big deal for Ethereum. So around 180, anywhere below that, you know, if you get into this area right here, 170s, 160s, you have a support in that area too, all right? And that would basically, if I see something like that, that's going to be a broad higher low or a broad range bound, you know, higher low consolidation type of situation if Litecoin actually makes it to that low. Now, keep in mind, if it gets there, there's going to be a lot of bearish talk on it. You have to ignore that and pay attention to the level and pay attention to how price is behaving around that level. This level right here is a significant support, and that is what, 140. That's where your real support is. That's where your high probability location is. Everything in between that, while it can give you a reversal, it's not going to be as attractive as that if it can get there. All right, there's no guarantee it will get there, but that's what I think of Litecoin. All these coins, I looked at a bunch of altcoins relative to Bitcoin, especially all the ones that people have been hyping about, and they've made no progress at all. Even yesterday when everyone thought, oh, here comes the catch up, and no, it's all turning red. So anyway, all right, so that's what I think of Litecoin. Thanks for asking. Certainly worth keeping an eye on. If Bitcoin can, you know, find a good support and start to turn, Litecoin should be doing a similar thing. I just don't like the fact that these things are showing relative weakness. Okay, X, talk about Solana. How's that coin been doing? Let's see. Oh, all right. So you got out at 189, not bad, right? The high is 194. So this thing has a consolidation breakout, right? See the triangle here? This is a nice triangle, right? Starting from here, and it consolidated and it broke out. Now, in a situation like this, this is tough because here you have this resistance right here. Risk right now is too high. Now, if you're a breakout trader and you like to take those kind of chances, well, your risk is measured from 155 and this thing is at 186. So you have to risk 30 points and you have to basically hope you can get 30 points if the breakout follows through. With Bitcoin starting to pull back, I don't know. I don't, as you know, I don't like to buy highs, especially when they're going into a previous all-time high. This chart is strong, there's no question, but I don't like the location. So I'd prefer a better location, right? And that location could be somewhere back in the middle of the range. Usually, I don't like the midpoint of a range because of its high random degree of random, you know, the random nature of it. But there's one exception, and that is when you have a breakout, okay, or if it breaks slightly higher and then returns to that midpoint tends to act as a support. So that would be a good scenario if you can get something like that. Otherwise, if this thing just turns red, you know, you're looking at the range low, which should be around this area right here, right? Range low. Here, can I get a line there? Yeah, something like that. That would be your range low. That's your most attractive area to get involved in this. And that's around, what is that, 116 area? Okay. Again, no guarantee that you will get that, but that's the most attractive price. You should be writing these levels like in your notes, or you should be, you know, taking note of it somehow. Put it in your charting platform, so if it gets there, you get some kind of message, because those are the areas of opportunity. Those are the areas of interest, and it may take a few weeks to get there. What the mistake you don't want to make, which is what most people do, is they chase it. Oh, this thing's on its way. This thing is going to be at 200 or 300 by blah, blah, blah. That's the mistake that you make, because you could have said that. You could have said that back here, okay? You could have said that over here, right, when it made this little peak, and now you keep getting caught in the noise. So that's how I would treat something like that. If it doesn't give you the opportunity, never pulls back, you just let it go and find something else that is giving you a better opportunity in terms of location and reward risk. Okay, so, but generally speaking, I like the structure of the chart. It's a bullish structure. And it'll be interesting to see how this thing behaves if Bitcoin shows us a real pullback. All right, so Ying, okay, from Barcelona, mucho gusto. Dot, okay, in Cardano. I saw another hype video on they never fail with the hype videos on Cardano. Cardano, based on the hype video that I saw, the title, I didn't even watch the video. The title said Cardano is gonna grow by 50 times. So you better buy some. Okay, so here's Dot, right? And here again, they get all excited because you get one green candle. Okay? They're all going to catch up to Bitcoin now? No, they're not. You're buying into a resistance here. I keep warning people about this, right? They say, oh, what about this coin? Look, it's got a green candle. Doesn't matter. Look what you're buying into. Look at this, right? That means there's a lot of people that would be happy to dump it on you when it goes back to those prices because people bought there previously. They'll be very happy to dump it on you. And here we go. We have a little bit of red. That's not a sell signal, but it's a starting point, right? It could become a sell signal. So once this candle closes, if the low of that candle is taken out, you have a sell signal. Even worse, if this low is taken out, 41.08, basically 41, this little minor support right here, that gets taken out, that would be another sell signal because a strong market should not take out supports. That's a minor support, but still, it shouldn't take it out. So what you want to watch for is some sort of pullback. Right now, this is your more attractive level right there, which is what? 34, so mid 30s, 35, 34, 33, that area right there, that's where you want to be more interested and prepared for a long signal. Because if it can establish a higher low in that area, you should get decent reward risk, and theoretically, it should work its way to a new high, right? Because higher low is often followed by a higher high. But you want a larger magnitude one. Not this little nonsense, right? This is a higher low over here, but it's small in magnitude. So you can't expect any kind of dramatic higher high. While anything is possible, it's not reasonable. So I'd be looking for this area here, okay? Those mid-30s. If it breaks those mid-30s, again, you're looking at these lower levels, which we've talked about before, the mid-20s, okay? That area there. Those are your notable areas. Now, what you want to watch during this process, if you do get a corrective structure, is how Bitcoin behaves and how this follows or not follows. Keep in mind, a lot of these garbage coins, they get a hype thing going, right? People start hyping it hard, and that's, I think, part of why it breaks away from the Bitcoin pattern. You know, Bitcoin typically leads and these things follow, but some of these things, we've seen it over and over again, out of nowhere. Ah, this thing went vertical. Oh, that thing went vertical. It's because they get the herd mentality going. And there's so many people that, you know, they're in these chat rooms, wherever they're pushing this stuff, that's what could lead to something like that. So it makes charting these things a little harder, but you can't argue with the support levels, right? So that's why instead of just fooling around at some random level or at a clear resistance, at least I want to see a support, right? If you're going to get involved in something like that. So that's DOT. Now you mentioned, what was the other one here you mentioned? You mentioned DOT, oh, Cardano. Yeah, I was just talking about that. Cardano. So let's take a look at Cardano. Right, 50x, sure. I see that happening right now. Now here's the thing. Look, Cardano, this structure is bullish, right? Not going to argue with that. Nice consolidation. This is nice. I like the consolidation. It's a broad, higher low consolidation. That's could be good because remember, half of these people, half of the population in here is short. That's usually the case, or there's a lot more selling going on in there. So when this thing breaks out, half of the population has to get out. That's the idea behind it anyway, right? Which means they have to start buying. Now, with that being said, you have a decent location. Current candle, though, is not favorable. You have a bearish pin bar, right, inside of that consolidation. Now, can you really take that too seriously? I wouldn't take this too seriously because this thing is not really doing anything, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about the bearish pin bar. As far as longs go, because I wouldn't short this. As far as longs go, you know, wait for, what is this level here? $2.13. You might as well wait to see if this thing can retest $2. The key here is, how will Cardano behave if Bitcoin really pulls back? What if Bitcoin goes from 62 to 52K over the next week? What if it does that? There's no way to know if it will. The question is, what if? How will this behave, right? And you're fooling around near these supports. It's possible that these supports break. So if you're interested in taking Cardano as a long, at least wait for one of those levels, right? 210, 2 even, maybe the 180s possibly, something like that if it can get that low, and you'll be fooling around at the range low at that point. But if anything, avoid the pin bar, right? I mean, there's no reason to buy this thing right now. And another thing is a lot of these coins, especially something like Cardano, they're not very good swing trade choices, right? The way they move, it's very slow. These are probably better for more of investment type strategies where you just buy some inventory and hold on to it, right? That's how you're going to capture the next broad move if there's one. But you have to play, your sizing has to be strategic. Meaning, you know, you're going to have a specific amount set aside. Okay, I'm only going to buy $1,000 worth, and I'm going to buy $100 at a time over the next 10 weeks or something like that, right? And that'll give you an average price. You don't want to go overboard with dollar cost averaging on these junk coins because they're not investment grade assets. I say this all the time. How could you say that about Cardano? They're amazing. They're going to do this. They're going to, right? But they're still not Intel, right? They're still not Microsoft. They're still not Walmart. They're still not Google. So they're highly speculative. If you're going to dollar cost average, I always say it's probably better to do it in an investment grade asset, something that's a proven thing, something that is a solid company. These things, you have to be very careful. So I'm not saying don't do it. All I'm saying is allocate smaller amounts of capital because you do have to deal with the possibility of them basically going nowhere or going to zero. All right, so thanks for asking, Cardano. Let's move on here. Hey, Oleg, good to see you from the Ukraine. Thanks for stopping by. Travel, okay. Savi from Brooklyn. All right, I know they don't talk like that, but I like to just do that because it just, you know, makes me laugh. All right, Jenite Jr., can you please elaborate on take profit targets, okay? And how it's different from take profit targets. Okay, that's an interesting question. So elaborate on take profit targets for an investment versus a swing trade. So let's go back to Bitcoin, right, for something like that, because Bitcoin has a nice trade example, you know, a nice setup and all that stuff for a trade example that would make sense. So let's say you got long in this area right here, right, because there's actually a trade signal there. We didn't call it, we missed it, but there's a trade signal there. Now, in something like that, for a swing trade, the difference is we set 3 targets in advance. So we'll pick 3 targets. They're going to be greater than the risk, okay, of course. And the average, usually the average reward risk is maybe 2 to 1, maybe more than 2 to 1 if it's within reason, something like that. And they're predetermined targets. You just place them, and that's it. You just hope the market gets there, okay? And that's that. Usually you're not going to get the top of the move, you're not going to maximize the move and all that other stuff. Now, when it comes to inventory is a little bit different of a game, as you know. So targets for inventory are basically, because you're dollar cost averaging, that's how you're going to build your inventory, right? You have to average into it. The way I look at it is, it's not really going to be about the chart. It's going to be more about, I like to think of it as the sentiment, right? So when things go vertical, let's say you've dollar cost average. Let's say you've just been buying, you know, you don't forget the chart. Let's just say every month you've been buying, you know, $100 worth, okay? And you've been buying it up until October, and, you know, you've been buying it since the beginning of the year, and you have some average price of, I don't know, let's say your average price is like, where were we like a year ago? So the midpoint would be around here. So let's say your average price is, what is this price here? So around, let's say 48,000. That's your average price because you bought some much higher, you bought some much lower, and you're somewhere around 40. Let's round it to 45,000. Okay, 45,000. That's your average price. So when you see something like this, when it's pushing all-time highs, or you're pushing some kind of dramatic resistance, right? Something like this, what you see here, it's pretty much vertical. It's wise to, just like you averaged in, you average out, right? So like instead of buying, you don't have a set target. Basically, you're in a general profit-taking area because new highs are a good place to take money off the table, right? Or any kind of vertical candle when you get these ridiculous moves right here. So instead of averaging in and saying, oh, instead of this month, instead of buying $100 more this month, you know, I'm going to actually sell $100 worth, or I'm going to sell $200 worth, and I'm going to start averaging out, because these are certainly not prices to be buying, right? These are not prices to be averaging into something. You want to average in when they're actually, when prices are generally going lower. But again, forget charts, right? Let's not talk about charts, because when you're talking about inventory, you just buy at a fixed time each month, okay, no matter where the price is. But at some point, well, if this thing is appreciated, you know, I'm long from 45,000 and now it's at 65,000, okay, or it's pushing 60,000. Not a bad time to, well, I'll just unload some of my whatever, I'll sell $200, I'll sell, and then next month I'll buy, you know, I'll continue with my buying program, okay, or something like that, because again, this is clearly not a place to buy. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. So just think of it as, you know, you're buying wholesale and you're selling retail. These are retail prices. Okay, they're just to kind of give you an example, and maybe this will help you as well. In my local area, recently this has come up. There are signs, billboards that say, buy Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. Billboards. If that's not a sign of a top, I don't know what is. When they're putting out I saw multiple billboards in the same area. I also saw a sign at a gas station, basically, buy Bitcoin here. Like, okay, that's not good, right? When the whole world is now in on it, it's bad. And you know, these people are going to pull up their Robin, oh, look, Bitcoin looks strong, I'm going to buy some. Right, you just bought the top. So when you see stuff like that and the whole world is excited about it, probably a good time to get out of some of inventory instead of allocating more. And now you have this extra money sitting on the side, so when it does pull back, whatever, you go back to your regular plan of, okay, on the 15th of the month, I'm going to buy my $100 worth. Okay, so does that make sense? I know it was a very long answer, but I hope that answers your question. Okay, let me move on here. Thanks for asking. All right, Thomas. Hey, Thomas, do you use on-chain analysis? Okay, so this, Thomas, I remember you asked this question the other day, and thank you for asking it again. I missed your question, so thanks for asking here. Do you use on-chain analysis to support your technical analysis? Good question. The answer is no. I don't use any of that stuff. Now, why? Because it's a complex layer of unnecessary information. All the information that I need to know is on this chart, okay? Support, resistance, price structure, candlesticks, and maybe some other forecasting method information, like maybe some Elliott wave if it makes sense, maybe a Fibonacci level if it makes sense. But most of what I'm looking at here are support and resistance levels and structure, because as a market technician, I strongly believe that all the known information in the world is priced into price right now. Also, any type of gimmick information like that, on-chain blah, 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 or Bitcoin dominance, or long, short, blah, 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 if there was any advantage to that information, it would not be so easily available, okay? And it would be exploited by robots and all kinds of other stuff, so it's useless. It's like going to the casino and at the baccarat table, they give you a little piece of paper so you could chart the random outcomes of the dealer and player or whatever. I mean, it makes I guess it makes the players feel better, but if there was any advantage to it, the casino would not give you a little piece of paper. Here, we'll give you the pencils too, so you can chart the random outcomes of a baccarat, which is supposed to be 100% random. Anyway, okay, so I hope that answers your question. Good question. Shank. And by the way, Thomas, that also goes for oscillators and all the other nonsense gimmick information that they push on retail traders as well. Okay, if you notice any fake guru, what do they have? Here's my RSI. Oh, look, here's my stochastic. Oh, I put them together, and look, I have this RSI stochastic situation with this moving average and blah, 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 blah. And it's got an 80% win rate, blah, 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 blah. It's all nonsense. There's no 80% win rate. It's 50%. It's random. All right, anyway, that's enough of that rant. I could talk about that forever. All right, Schenk. Hi, Schenk from Austria. Hope I pronounced your name right. I just want to ask, will there be any talking markets? Okay, good question. You know, this is a scheduling conflict. So right now, I don't have any dates, and I'm the one that has to do all the work for that. The other two guys don't. So you know, I don't have any dates right now for talking markets. So thanks for asking, though. I appreciate that. I'm glad you liked it. Ying. Some traders talked about Bitcoin is on the Wyckoff. Ah, yes. I've seen some hype about this, Ying. I'm glad you mentioned it. February is a buying climax, and now is the LPSY. What do you think? So, yeah, I've seen some nonsense about people trying. I guess, you know, these fake gurus, they're all following the same information, or they're copying each other. Because I saw one guy specifically, I'm going to show you how the Wyckoff blah, blah, blah works. Okay. Here's the thing, right? It's very subjective. They use volume, and based on these consolidations and how the volume plays out in those consolidations, it's supposed to kind of give you a sense of, oh, this thing should move higher from here, or this thing should move lower. But do you realize you can get that same information from just evaluating price structure in candlesticks? You don't need to get into all that complex, like, oh, I need to evaluate the volume here. Oh, look, the volume was bigger here in this consolidation, and blah, blah, blah. It's just another gimmick. I'm not like an expert on the Wyckoff distribution. I'm not. But, you know, I just think it's like Elliott wave. It's very subjective. I mean, they don't count waves, but, you know, they have their particular patterns that they look for and blah, blah, blah. I think it's useless. I mean, because if something changes, it can throw you off so bad, because you're like, oh, look, this consolidation, this thing should go higher from here. So now you buy the thing and then it breaks, right? No, well, I could just put a stop, right? But the problem is, can you repeat, do you have a process? Can it give you a process to repeat your decision making, right? Basically a set of rules that will put you on the right side more often than not, or keep you out of trouble. Can it do that? When it's too subjective, it doesn't do that, right? That's one of the biggest problems with Elliott wave. You can't trade on Elliott wave because it's extremely subjective, and it's very hard to get a similar or repetitive outcome off of something that's so subjective. So that's what I have to say about that. There's nothing wrong in learning about these historical methods, but just you have to put them into perspective, and you have to realize that price action now compared to recent price action gives you more valuable and more actionable information. And the reason for that, again, is all the known information in the world is being factored into price at the moment. So that allows you to get some sense of strength or weakness and what the price is likely to do in the near future. So we can't sit there and say, well, based on that, you know, Bitcoin's going to pull back to 30K by next week. We can't say things like that. But I can tell you that this is a bad area to buy. I've been saying that for weeks, and now we have our first red candle. But that's, you know, that's just all based on previous levels, locations, probability around the location, and basically price action. All right, so I hope that answers your question. Thanks for asking. Schwartz, I got Schwartz Bond from Romania. International man of mystery has come here to visit me once again. Hi, Schwartz. Nice to see you. Where is he from now? Oh, okay. Okay, he's in Romania. Thanks for stopping by, Schwartz. Always good to see you. He keeps my Romanian following going. Okay, Ying, shall we have a look at GoPro? Okay, sure. What's the symbol? Let me see. GoPro. Let me type that in. G-Pro. You would think I would know that. Okay, hold on. So let me type that in here. G-Pro. All right, so it's a stock. And here's the story. Well, first things first. So it's a stock. First thing I want to think about is how correlated is this to the S&P? Doesn't look highly correlated. It's probably not. Okay, or NASDAQ. It's not like a market leader. I guess that they make those little video camera things. if I'm not mistaken. So let's look at the bigger picture. I mean, I see higher lows, I see higher highs in general. Recent price action shows consolidation. Okay, fine. That's a higher low consolidation. Certainly an attractive area. You're not buying highs, okay? You are in a support area now. All right, you went slightly lower. You have a failed low over here because it tried to break, and it's returned to that level relatively quickly, right, over a few days. Okay, fine. So you have all that going for you here. Now, here's the thing. As far as a long, I can see the long argument, right, because you're looking at buying the range low and seeing if this thing can produce its next leg higher. Let's look at the most recent price action and evaluate that, right, because that's where the setup will come from. So at this moment, you are fooling around. This old support could be a minor resistance, right, and a possible another lower high developing. So how does that help? Well, that can keep you out of this. Why buy this thing right now? Instead, especially since you have this bearish pin bar situation over here, right? Why waste your money or your energy? Wait for, in this situation, wait for the double bottom. If it can deliver that to you, that would be at $8. What is that? $8. So basically around $8.50, right? Give it a little more room. Around $8.50, that would be one scenario to consider for a long, if it can give you a signal there, or the higher low, okay? Which you can also get. The higher low is a little more aggressive, but if you get your reversal candle there, that could be the beginning of a structure change, just like we saw with the NASDAQ, right? The recent NASDAQ structure change, and the NASDAQ has been vertical ever since, but it's the same idea. Okay, now, of course, there's no guarantee that it will follow through, but if you have something like that and you get the structural change, then you're in from a good price at that point, and then you could try to let this thing ride, and you have plenty of potential. Here's why. Even if you make it back to the midpoint of the consolidation, which is within reason, what price is that? It's around 1085, around, yeah, so in those high 10s. So you're looking at, possibly $1.50 to $2 of profit, maybe more if it can work its way higher, and you don't have to take a lot of risk. I mean, you really shouldn't be risking more than $1 on something like this once it gives you the signal. So not a bad structure, right? It's definitely not a bad location, not a bad time to be getting involved in it if you're interested. I would just let it refine more, let it give you more of a specific signal if you're interested in a swing trade. All right, so thanks for asking about G Pro. Hey, Sean. Yeah, Larry David USD. Sean's a joker. Sean is a joker. Okay, HS. Hey, good to see you. What does he say? You should look at what happened to Bitcoin on Binance. Bitcoin on Binance? What happened to Bitcoin on Binance? Let's see. Let's see Binance. Binance. This is Binance over here. What happened to Bitcoin on Binance? I don't see anything unusual there. It looks the same. Looks the same as the other ones. Maybe you could elaborate more on that. I don't know what you mean by that, but thanks for mentioning. Maybe you could be more specific. Okay, hey Peter. Let's see what Peter has to say here. By the way, if you want to press the like button, I guess that helps. I guess it helps the YouTube algorithm. But no, there's a lot of other things I have to do to get that algorithm to like me. The like buttons aren't going to help me that much. Anyway, Peter from Slovakia, what do you think of it? If you are not worried, you are not risking enough. So are you worried sometimes? Okay, that's an interesting question. What do you think of the phrase, if you are not worried, you are not risking enough? I don't agree with that, okay? Often, wealthy people, okay, rich people, they take small risks and they make big money by taking small risks. Obviously, if the risk is relatively small to them, they're not worried, right? Rich people don't put 50% of their net worth on the line. Maybe if you're Elon Musk, right? But he's an exception. He's an exceptional risk taker. Most people would not be able to handle that kind of risk. And hey, it could have not worked out for him, but it worked out, right? But typically, rich people don't like to take risk. They don't like to be worried about the position. That's a retail mindset, in my opinion, because you know what that's going to do? That's going to get you to take your $1,000 account, not you specifically, but someone with $1,000, $2,000. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to put it all at risk and hope for the best, and it gets cut in half. Okay, and now I'm going to do it again. I got to be able to make money this time, and it gets cut in half again, right? And you can't come back from that, right? Because you know how that goes. You need so. I would not agree with that at all. And I don't like to be worried. There are occasions where I might be in a position that I'm not too happy about, but I don't like to be at the mercy of the market. By being worried about your position, that means you're at the mercy of the market. And the market, you are going to be wrong. Okay, there's going to be situations. There's no sure thing. That is the perfect recipe, what you described there. That's the perfect recipe for hope mode. Something that I'm dramatically against. I'm very against hope mode, right? So no, you should not be worried. You should be looking to make, depending on your account size, you want to keep your risk, because this is all about risk and playing good defense, right? If you're keeping your risk on for swing trades around between 1 and 3%, then you're going to be in this game a much longer time. Sure, you're going to have some trades where you lose a few in a row, but if you're putting too much at risk, you're going to wipe yourself out. Not only that, but you're going to wipe out your confidence. So that's what I think of that saying. Thanks for sharing that. The Zurich axiom, right? Well, obviously they want retail traders to lose their money. Janet Jr., could you please share the thoughts on MKRUSD? Yeah, MKRUSDT. Okay. Oh, Maker, right? So let's take a look. This obviously, look at how the hype machine is no longer in play on something like this, right? This thing had some great structure back here, and since then it's been garbage. Now, you have a lower high established here. All right, fine. You have another lower high in this area right here, where it is now. Now, this is not exactly a bearish trend, but you do have lower highs. What's missing from this, from being a bearish trend? Well, it's not making lower lows, right? The lower highs have to be followed by lower lows. You don't have a new low in place yet, but it's in a location to produce such an outcome. Like if I were to short, if I was looking for a short and I was open to shorting garbage coins like this would be a short setup. All right, actually, you have a bearish pin bar off of a potential lower high resistance area right here. That's a short, okay, because lower high should lead to lower low. And if you were willing to take that bet, I mean, that's your risk would be defined by the high of the candle. What is that, 25, 26, just over 25 cents or whatever that number is. Do I have the right number? Let me see, I can't see. Oh, I'm sorry, not 25 cents. That's 2,500. I thought there was a decimal point in there. All right, anyway, so your risk would be defined by this high, which is 2706, right? 2,706. And if this thing pushes for that low, well, you need to make more than what you risk there, right? The size of that candle. But that's what the structure says. So definitely wouldn't be interested in longs. Definitely not. This structure is not supportive of longs. It needs to change by either producing a higher low, producing a double bottom, or that kind of thing. But, even though you don't have a bearish trend, I don't like the situation. There are coins that have much better structures than this, okay, if you want to get involved with an altcoin. Plus, this thing's way too expensive. All right, so what else we got here? You mentioned Maker, and what was the other one? AXS. Well, that's one I haven't heard in a while. AXS, let's see, what's going on with that one? See, look, that's a much better structure, definitely. How much is this thing? All right, so it's $118. Look at this clearly, higher lows, higher highs, right? Just general structure. Okay, you got that. Now, recent price action is consolidation, right? Possible higher low consolidation. Okay, you have that too. You have a range low right here, which it seems to be flirting with. What is that low here? 116.52. So it's basically like $1.50 away from that low. But you have a large red outside bar. So that's a sell signal. So there's nothing to do here. I wouldn't buy it, into that support with a candle looking like that. You might as well wait for a more attractive support, and that would be this old resistance right here, which is 83.50, around there, right? So if you could get back to those mid 83, 84, 85 area, that's probably the ideal area to look for a new long. This is a nice, see, I like a coin like this for a swing trade because the thing moves. It's at a good price, right? It's at a decent price. It's not like it's, you know, a couple of pennies. So it's a mover, and you just have to wait for a better price for it. This here, you may get a tight consolidation and breakout. If you want to play that, you're going to have to wait for the breakout, hope it doesn't fake out, and define your risk from the range low, which again is going to be around the 115 area. So something to keep in mind, right? Obviously, this thing is probably news driven and all that other stuff. Although I haven't seen much hype. I guess there's only so much hype that they can put on my suggested video feed. So yeah, that would be the ideal area if it can get there. Otherwise, you're looking at the potential breakout and a higher risk type of trade. And one way to adjust for that is with a smaller position. Okay, so thanks for asking about AXS. Certainly a good one for the radar. Let's see what else we got here. So Savi, there is no regulation, so people can do whatever they want to. It's nothing to do with YouTube. Well, Savi, true. There is no regulation, and people can do and say whatever they want. But the thing is, if YouTube is allowing, if a YouTube is making it possible to scam other people, if you bought into something on YouTube, whatever, some producer put out some kind of gimmick or whatever, and you bought into it, and you lose your money, is that okay? I don't think that's okay. So it's like they're going to scam people out of their money. YouTube is supposed to be, a place that's not, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, you're right, like a corporation should not get involved, but still, I don't know. When it's like that obvious or that easy to steal people's money, doesn't really make for a good environment. All right, anyway, so thanks for mentioning. Let's see what else we got here. Sean, does Bitcoin go over previous high change the Elliott wave count? Okay, good question. Are we still being wave 4? Okay, good question. Let's go back to Bitcoin because I've talked about the wave count and the wave 4 consolidation that I figured we were in. And I said, in order for us to confirm that we're in a wave 5, we need to break this high. Well, we broke the high. All right, we broke the 64K high, but here's the thing. We didn't stay above it, right? We rejected it pretty quickly. So that may not really count as a confirmation for wave 5, all right? Now, so at this point, it's hard to say. I can't call that a confirmation. So I'm going to have to assume we're still in the broad wave 4 consolidation. We're just at the peak of it, right? That's what I'm going to have to assume until it proves otherwise. So you have that situation. The other thing that makes me suspect that we're still in the consolidation is this structure off of the 30K low. It's a 3-leg structure. You have the A leg, you have the B leg consolidation, and then you have the C leg, right? When you look at the weekly chart, that's just a 3-leg structure, right? See that? It's 3 legs, 3 distinct legs. That's usually a corrective type of pattern, right? This is not an impulse wave, not yet. So if this stays like that, it points to the possibility of being in the wave 4 consolidation. I know a lot of people who just bought into this are not going to want to hear that. But if this is a wave 4 consolidation, like gold, then going back to the midpoint of the range, which is 51K area, is very within reason. It's very reasonable. It would not be unreasonable for it to do that. Testing the low of the range might be a little less reasonable, 30K. But mid 50s, lower 50s, high 40s is not unreasonable. It's only 50%. It's only halfway through the range there. So good question. That's why, again, it's not a good idea to get opinionated on Elliott wave. Use it as a general roadmap, and when it makes sense, okay, fine. But if it starts to not make sense, or if it starts to get confusing, then find other factors. And there's plenty, you can do plenty with just price structures and candlesticks without being confused by Elliott wave. But that's what I see as far as the wave count goes. And I don't like that 3-legged move. not generally a good sign. Like I said, that's usually a corrective move. So it's likely we're in wave 4 still. All right, so thanks for asking. Mr. Banian, hey, good to see you. I like your style that you explain. Okay, cool, I appreciate that. Thanks for stopping by and for the kind words. What's your view on IOTX? Okay, so I went over Cardano before, so you could go back earlier in the stream. Let's see, IOTX. I'm guessing that's a coin, right? Let's see, okay. So IOTX. Well, if this is all the data that's available, are there any other exchanges with IOTX? Let's see, that's Coinbase. Let's see, Binance has an IOTX. Let's see, IOT. I don't know if that's the same thing. No, I don't think that's the same. IOTEX. No. All right, so I'm guessing that this is the only IOTX we got. All right, fine. So if that's the case, there's not a lot of data here available. Based on this data, I see a resistance right here, which is what? Basically 9 cent area, something like that. Probably that you can round that to 10 cents. And you're consolidating just below that, right? At the same time, you can argue that these are higher lows. Okay, that's a higher low right there, right? And you have this little higher low consolidation right here in this area. You see that? This consolidation right there. So you have that going for you. Current candle is bearish. So we're seeing these bearish candles across the board. Not surprising, because most of these coins are relatively weak to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin hasn't even begun to really pull back yet. Right? A 3,000 point move on Bitcoin, one candle is nothing. Right? We can easily pull back 10, 15,000 points over a week or two. It's possible. So the question is, how will these behave if Bitcoin has a more dramatic pullback? So that's why at this point I would not do anything with this, although you do have some bullish structure here. So you could wait for another buy signal to develop, and one low to keep in mind would be around, what is that? 0.6, so basically 6.5. That area right there would be a good place to keep in mind. You would be at the low of the range, right? And you'd want a buy signal to develop there, and you'd need to see a range breakout after that. If this range is going to stay intact and be a higher low, you should theoretically see the higher high. This could be the continuation of a structural change, but on the other side of that, if these supports are broken, right? If it breaks that 6.5 cent area, breaks that support, then that will confirm the lower high. And I would not be chasing something like that on the long side. All right, so just something to keep in mind as far as levels go. Again, this is probably going to be dependent on Bitcoin. I don't know how well this thing is following Bitcoin. We don't have a lot of data here, and it doesn't look, I don't see much of a similar pattern there. All right, so it's something to keep in mind. Thanks for asking about IOTX. Oh, Binance USA. Okay, hold on. Just getting through the chat here. Olga, wait, can you please look at Rune and Vet? Sure. Wedge, okay, no problem. Wedge, I have my rants distributed. I try to distribute them evenly throughout the stream. Douglas, knowing the amount of leverage in the market, not useful. Okay, some good questions here. Let me just check my time. Okay, cool, we're cool. All right, so let me talk about Rune and Vet, and then Binance USA. All right, I'll check that out too. So thanks for clarifying on that. Let me go to Rune, R-U-N, what is that? USDT. Okay, on Binance. All right, this is interesting. It's certainly not following what's going on in some of these other coins, right? It's not acting relatively weak. So maybe there's some news on it. I don't know what the story is with Rune, but the chart looks good. Here's what I like about it. You have a higher low established. You have one here and you have one here, okay? Oh, and that entire structure, right, this whole thing is a consolidation. It's a higher low consolidation after this initial bullish move off that low. So that's a sign of strength. You have that going for you. Okay, nice double bottom here, right, off of this little bullish pin bar from the other day, whatever, that's fine. And now this thing looks like it's on its way. So what do you do from here? Well, you have a couple of choices. You can go for the breakout if you're interested in the breakout. The problem with the breakout is you're going to have to take a lot of risk. Your risk is going to be defined by this pin bar low, $7.09. You could probably round that to maybe $7 if you want to give it more of like a round number. And that's a lot of risk for you're almost at $9, right? So you'd have to risk $2 in a situation like that. But that would be your breakout. And you would have to hope that the thing can continue. Now, what's interesting about this is, you know, most coins are acting relatively weak. This thing is acting relatively strong. So if Bitcoin turns, right, and gets bullish, this thing theoretically should get bullish faster. That's the whole idea. So you have that idea, or you can wait and see if this thing can either retest that low or give you some sort of higher low, right, in this area right here. You can consider that. Or another consideration, I should say you have three choices. Let it break out, because you're going into this resistance area anyway. You have all this resistance here anyway. Let it break out, see how far it goes, and then look for the next pullback, right? Hopefully that next pullback could be the old resistance, right? That's usually a good place to be looking for a swing trade if you're interested in something like this. I mean, it's certainly a good looking chart. If you're interested in like something like position trade, right? A lot of times these swing trades are hard to get because they don't give you the ideal setup and this and that, and then they just run away without you and blah, 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 right? So to avoid that, you can basically buy some inventory. But the key to that, because again, I don't really encourage dollar cost averaging in these coins, because I think most of them are just hype and nonsense. They're not investment grade assets. But you buy a little bit, and if it breaks out, you'll buy a little bit more, and you just work that inventory somewhat. But you have to keep that size small, because if this thing has some news that's unexpected, right, something like this, you get caught in that. And that's something you have to deal with when you're dealing with inventory. All right, so that's why people that get too big too fast, they get caught in this, they get scared, they bang it out at the bottom, and eventually it works its way higher and all that stuff, and someone else makes money off of your money. So yeah, so generally I like this thing as a long. You know, you have this structure with you. You just have to consider what kind of risk you want to take and how you want to manage that risk. If this thing takes out these supports, what is that, 726? What is this low here? 699. So basically that $7 area. If $7 is broken, then you probably want to, you know, take your loss at that point and step away from it until it could find some more stability. Because with this type of structure, it should not take out that support if this structure is going to maintain itself. Does that make sense? Okay, so that was Rune. So thanks for bringing up this chart. It's certainly a good one to keep an eye on. All right, VeChain. HS usually asks about VeChain. Did I cover VeChain? Oh, so VeChain is doing its thing. I see. All right, so now here's the thing. Trying to break out, but Rune is much better looking than VeChain. Look at VeChain. You're going right into this congestion area right here, right? You're in it right now, basically. So this is a really bad place to be buying VeChain, in my opinion, even though it looks like it's going somewhere. This thing is heavily hyped. I think I saw a video on this one too, at least a video title. I didn't watch the video. So yeah, I would not chase this. Look for supports on something like VeChain. Wait for the supports because it'll get there. This pattern previously was following Bitcoin, right? This kind of coincides with Bitcoin at what, the 40K reversal on Bitcoin, that area right there. What price is that? 08, basically 8 cents around there. So if you could get a pullback, if you can get some sort of retrace into this area right here, which is around 10 cents, that would probably give you a much more attractive place to be looking for long in something like VeChain. All right, if you want to work with something like that. Those are your higher probability prices. Because right now, even though it looks like, oh, it looks like it's getting better, right? Look where you're going. You're going into all of this resistance. You have all of this resistance ahead of you. And people aren't buying into that. Just like buying into Bitcoin right into those highs. It's the same idea. So I definitely don't like it long now. All right, so thank you for asking about VeChain. Like I said, I have a very strict rule about buying highs. There are some exceptions, but if I'm going to buy some sort of breakout, that breakout needs to be coming off of a low of some kind or some kind of low consolidation. All right, anyway, so now let me just go back to the chat here. So, okay, Douglas, is knowing the amount of leverage in the market not useful? The amount of leverage in the market, well, I mean, if it's the amount of leverage that retail traders have on, meaning you can gauge whether they're over leveraged or under leveraged. That may have some use, because if retail traders are over leveraged, you better believe when the market turns the wrong way, the market is more likely to have an exaggerated move. Why? If they're over leveraged, they're going to get margined out, which forces them to sell, right? And that's where a lot of times you get an exaggerated move, because people are getting margined out of their positions. They don't really want to sell. The broker or the exchange kicks them out of their positions. This is especially common like on things like BitMEX and stuff like that, right? Where leverage is pretty much everything they use. So it can have some value if you look at it from a contrarian point of view, but I really don't see how it can give you any kind of timing advantage. Just really more of gauging the magnitude of a potential move. I could see where it might have that use. But like I said, I like to keep things as simple as possible. My goal is to make decisions on the least amount of information possible, not more information. Everyone always wants more, because they're always told, oh, well, if you have this and you have that and this secret, and I'm going to put you that, and look at this oscillator, and look at that, and look at this, and look at that, right? And you could have made the same decision on probably just one of those variables. So making decisions on less information is better, because it gives you more confidence and it helps you get into opportunities when they're not obvious, right? And that's usually the better opportunities. You really have to think like a poker player, because that's what a poker player does. They have to make a decision, they have to make a bet or not bet based on incomplete information. They don't know what cards are going to come out next. They can have an idea, and they also don't know what cards their opponent or opponents have in their hand, right? They have to kind of guess based on the way they're betting and stuff like that. So you have to basically do the same thing. Take risks on incomplete information and use the least amount of information possible. Charts can help us do that, right? So that's why I pretty much rely on charts. I really don't look at anything else. I don't pay attention to any news, none of that stuff, because all the information in the world at the moment is baked into price. All right, so now Binance, HS is talking about Binance USA. So let me see what that's about, right? So BTC, USD, let's see, do I have Binance USA on here? Binance US. What's the story? Oh, I see what you're talking about here, HS. Is that real? Is that real? Because, I mean, I would see that as a bad tick. Man, if that's Binance US and you had your stop, that sucks. Talk about getting margined out. If that's real, what's the low of this thing? 8,200? Is that real? Because imagine, like, how many people got stopped out of this, or if they had stop orders, or if they were on margin, this could have margined out your account. What a mess. Look at that. That's a joke. I guess Binance US, if that's real and people lost money in that because of this fake move here, Binance US can have some problems there. Oh, man. Well, they probably, in the fine print, they probably say, well, you know, things like that happen. Not my fault. Wow, interesting. Thanks for mentioning that, HS. What a mess. Good to know. Hopefully you weren't caught in that. I wonder what they're going to do about that. Look at that. 8,200 is the low. That's also good for people that had limit orders way below the market and they got to buy some Bitcoin real low. These things are really rare though, right? That usually doesn't happen on Binance US. Okay. Thanks a lot, Binance US. Okay. Let me see here. From Kauai, Izzy, can you, okay, take a look at Aussie? Sure. Hey, Reese, good to see you. Okay, I covered VET. I'm going to take a look at Aussie. Zelta, Reese from Western Australia. We got Zelta from Riga, Latvia. Welcome. Okay, KuCoin, what? They have a problem too? Oh, okay, IOTX. Okay, no problem. Let's go back here. The entire platform, HS is saying, about Binance, the entire platform. So what? So like Litecoin has another. Let me just take a look real quick. Binance US. Okay, no, I don't see that pin bar on this thing. But interesting. Thank you for mentioning that. Hopefully people aren't caught in that mess. I wonder how Binance is going to handle that. All right, so let's go back to the charts here. Izzy wants to see Aussie dollar. All right, I don't get too many requests for Forex pairs. Now, Aussie dollar tends to be a currency that follows things like oil or, you know, that kind of thing. Also, I believe there's a relationship with the S&P, right? There tends to be like a relationship there. Look at this. Either way, none of that matters. Either way, you have a failed high. So you have the higher low. This looks just like the NASDAQ, by the way, right? The NASDAQ had a higher low, very similar to this. And it made the higher high and is giving you the red candle off of this resistance here. Now, here's the thing with this. So this is not exactly while you have a higher low and you have the higher high, we don't know if this is really a full bullish trend yet, although you have the beginning of that structure. So if I saw something like this, the question is, would you short this? This would be an aggressive short. All right, you have the nice outside candle. Now, I said this recently about the pound dollar, and that got stopped out. But here is an aggressive short idea. Your stop would go above the high. What is this high here? 75.46, right? And you have to wait until this candle closes. The low of the candle is where the entry would be, okay? 74.58, so you give it a little room, 74.50. And then you see if you can get out for, you know, what is that range? 74, is that about 100 pips? 74.58, 75, all right, so it's about 90, 80, 85 pips, something like that would be your risk. You might as well round it to like 100 pips, all right? That's a swing trade. Now, that means you need to make at least 100 pips if this thing pulls back. So it's risky, it's very aggressive because you're going against now what looks to be a bullish structure. And this thing can easily turn back green and make the higher high, okay? Now you do have a lot of resistance in this area. Look at this. You have resistance from back there. So it does make sense that this thing is turning. The thing is you just don't know how far. So that's the aggressive thing to do. The more conservative thing to do is you wait for that pullback and you look for the next long. That may take, the way this thing's moving, that may take a week or something like that, but you look for the next higher low long in something like this area right here. All right, this area would be, what is this? Around this low, that would be, I can't read the numbers, hold on. That would be around 73.80s. So mid 73s, if you can get price in that area in reverse, that would be a more conservative higher low for a long. All right, just something to keep in mind. That's two ways to consider the Aussie dollar: the aggressive short or the conservative long. So depending on how aggressive you want to be, but certainly a good location. If you're going to try a short, at least you have the setup for it. You have the location for it. Just you're going against the broader structure. It's not exactly a bearish market either. All right, but sometimes these things can, you know, at least give you 1-to-1 or maybe 1.5-to-1 reward risk. So that's going to be up to you how you want to handle that. Thank you for asking about Aussie dollar. Reese. Okay, so I went over VeChain. Reese, thanks for stopping by. It's like 4 a.m. in Western Australia, and this guy is here. Those Australians, I'm telling you, they're very committed. So thanks, Reese, for stopping by. Hope everything is well over there. I see some crazy things on the news from your country. Okay, Zelta. Okay, right, so good to see you. Now, KuCoin. Let's take a look. IOTX. Now you're saying it's on KuCoin. All right, let's take a look. Here's KuCoin over here. It's got the same amount of data. That's pretty much the same. IOTX, right? Let me just make sure. IOTX. IOTX USD. Is there a T after that? Let's see. KuCoin. Yeah, I got the right one. KuCoin. Let's just check this one. Yeah, I'm still seeing the same amount of data. Yeah, so it's still the same. All right, thanks for mentioning. All right, let's see what else we have here. Zelta, Adobe. Oh, Adobe. That's a stock I haven't heard from in a while. So look, now Adobe is a good example of a highly correlated NASDAQ stock. I mean, look at this thing, right? It's pretty much doing what the NASDAQ's doing. This move right here from this low looks very similar to the NASDAQ. Let's take a look. NSX. Look, very similar, right? They're correlated. ADBE. So here's the thing. I don't like the location. Is this strong? Yeah, you can't argue with the strength, sure. And you're getting this bullish close, right? The market's closed. Now, you take out this high tomorrow, you will have a long signal on Adobe. But here's the problem. You're buying into here. This is the problem that I have with Adobe, right? Or all these things, even the NASDAQ and S&P and all that. You're buying into that area. That's a resistance. Now, it may go higher, but you have to deal with a lot of noise and nonsense and risk. The stop would have to be pretty tight, so chances are you get stopped out, right? So the better thing to do, that's the aggressive thing to do, so it depends on how aggressive or conservative you want to be. The more conservative thing to do, similar to that Aussie dollar situation, is wait for the pullback, right? See if it can give you a higher low pullback. That would be ideal. It may not give you that. Maybe the higher low, maybe it doesn't show up there. Maybe it shows up a little higher, okay? Like maybe it gives you something like this, and maybe it's a little bit of a tighter formation, something like that, right, in this area right here. So those would be the more conservative areas to consider, something like Adobe, and that's around, what is that, $610, around that area there? 600, so maybe 600, 605, 610. But if you want to take that aggressive continuation pattern, you have that. You're going to need the market to go with you. All right. Now I don't know. A lot of these companies have been reporting. They report over the next few weeks. Make sure you check that schedule on something like this, because if they come out with some kind of report that is not as good as people expect, you get caught in this thing and you won't be able to get out. All right. Usually it occurs. A lot of times the reports are after hours and you're stuck in it and blah blah blah. So just be aware of that. Thanks for asking. Okay, IOTA USD. All right, hold on. So I gotta wrap this up here in just a couple of minutes, in a minute or so. Yeah. So if I missed your question, I apologize. Let me just do this. Let me just run through the chat. Let me just see if there's any quick ones I can answer. Cap, it's on its joint stock company on London Stock Exchange. Okay. Chainlink will run tonight. Look, we got a fake guru in here. Fake guru on Chainlink. That means don't buy it. Sell it. All right, Ziad, one of our institutional traders to us that they have in there, which appears to have caused the sell-off. That's what Binance says, Binance US. One of their institutional traders. What institutional trader? I'd like to know. That's interesting. I meant the entire platform got liquidated on that big. Wow, that's bad. When something like that occurs, that really hurts the confidence of your customers. You're sitting there, everything was fine, and then your position just vanishes because an institutional trader pressed the wrong button or something. Not sure what happened. Right? There was some funny. Remember the other week on what was it on what was that exchange that I look at? Hold on. This one, Bitstamp. Remember this pin bar over here? It's not as bad as Binance, but remember this pin bar over here? This didn't occur anywhere else. People in my stream pointed it out, that little sell-off, that little blip was just on Bitstamp. Interesting, right? Someone's getting robbed. Anyway, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Binance. Wow. Binance US. Okay, so, and they're supposed to be, I guess they're supposed to be more, I don't know if they're supposed to be more secure or more whatever compared to the other Binance, because, it's for U.S. customers, whatever. I don't know. More regulated. I don't know. I don't know what the story is. Anyway, interesting. That was their explanation. Well, thanks, Ziad, for sharing that. But you would have been liquidated even with... Do you guys realize that BTC on Binance US... That's crazy. Okay, Irina, you had a question? I didn't see your question. How did I miss that? I'm going back. I don't see any questions here from Irina. So I don't know how I skipped you. Let me see. HS. I don't see any questions from Irina. I think YouTube blocked your question or something, because I'm looking back at the chat here. I don't see a thing. Unless you asked in the beginning. Let's see. Nope. I don't see anything. So maybe you need to ask that again. Okay. Curious what you think about RUSDT. What is that? Okay. All right. I got to wrap this up here. Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. If I missed your chart, I apologize. Come back to my next stream. I will be on Monday. I'm probably not going to simulcast onto TradingView. It's too cumbersome, and it really it's very hard for me to get them both running, and then it ties up all my time, and I can't broadcast here on time and all that stuff. So you know how that goes. I got to fix that. So I don't know if I'm going to be on TradingView, but I will be here on YouTube. Okay, so stop by and you can ask your questions then. Again, I apologize if I missed your question. Okay, and thank you for pointing out. Thank you for pointing out that situation with Binance, because again, that can be problems. That definitely can be problematic. Okay, Irina mentions Luna. All right, Irina's a long-time customer. I'm going to have to at least take a look at that real quick, just real quick. Let me see what I could say about it. All right, well, you have higher lows, right? Higher lows, higher highs. General structure is good, but current candle, I don't like the current candle. So in this situation, I mean, I wouldn't do anything with this right now. If you're in it, there's really nothing to do. If you're not in it, you know, you can wait for, what, $33? That's your support. You have a support around 33. You have another support here in this area, around 27. You can maybe round that to like 26 or 25. Those are your supports. Otherwise, you're still consolidating. So I would anticipate with the higher low, I would anticipate that this thing is more likely to break out. Of course, you're going to need Bitcoin to go with you on this, most likely. If Bitcoin pulls back, this thing is in a location to pull back. So if you have some, not a bad place to maybe lock something in, because I know you're more into like the inventory type stuff. So not a bad place to maybe take a little off the table, but you know, it's going to really depend on Bitcoin, because it seems like it's following the Bitcoin situation right now. So those are the support levels on something like that. Now, if it breaks all these supports, this thing takes out 25, then the party's probably over, right? For this thing will be breaking that structure, and theoretically, it shouldn't do that if it's going to stay strong. So just something to keep in mind, and it may take its lead from Bitcoin. All right, so that's what I'm going to say about that. Again, I had to make an exception for Irina because she's a really long-time customer. She's been with us like since the beginning. All right, anyway, so that's that. I'm going to wrap this up. Again, if I missed your questions, I apologize. Join me on Monday when I will, I will continue and answer your questions again. So hopefully, everyone, you got something out of my stream, and I'm. Thank you again for taking the time, especially those of you that are in locations where it's like 4 a.m., like Reese and all that stuff. I mean, that's crazy. So I really appreciate that very much. Thank you for all your participation. Check out Greenbridge if you have a chance. You want to see what's going on there, you can click on the link in the description portion of this analysis. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching, and enjoy the rest of the day or the evening, wherever you are. And again, thanks for watching.